Welcome everyone, I'm Donna Kastner and this is Retirepreneur. We are so thrilled to have you with us today because today, yes, today is a very special show where we'll be featuring an interview with Jeff Tidwell, who is founder of nextforme.com. He also recently joined me to host a series of workshops in Ohio, including one we had at the Hudson Library with lots of people, so stay tuned because there'll be more discussion about that. But I want to give you a heads up on a couple of other developments that are happening for Retirepreneur. We are so thrilled to be expanding, and there's a couple more options we want to make you aware of. One is Mighty Networks. It's a platform, mightynetworks.com, that we have acquired, and we're building out a community, a private Facebook-like community where you can come in, exchange information and messages back and forth with one another. And we hope you'll take a moment and give it a look. Go to our website at retirepreneur.com, and certainly at the end of this program we'll have some more information on how to reach this mighty network for Retirepreneur. But we're finding that the live events are awesome. They are pinnacle moments. But if we don't provide ways for you to engage in conversation with others that you meet in these events, things kind of stall a bit. So come join us for this Mighty Networks piece, and we'll be telling you more about this in future programs. And the other thing is HudsonFreelance.com. Yep, we have an online directory that is being assembled just for talent here in Hudson, Ohio. So if you are any number of, maybe you're a graphic designer and you're looking for some more gigs, maybe accounting is your specialty, whatever it is, take a look at HudsonFreelance.com. Essentially, when people land there, they're going to have two options: find talent, find a gig. And so if you want to get hired by companies in this area, it might be worth filling out an application. We're going to be very selective in creating this directory, and then we'll be marketing it out to local businesses. So those are the two really exciting things happening at RetirepreneurTV. And we'll take just a quick break, and in a moment, Jeff Tidwell will be joining us. And joining us now is Jeff Tidwell, founder of Next for Me. Welcome to Retirepreneur TV, Jeff.
Thank you, Donna. I've been a longtime viewer, and I'm so proud to be here today.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here, and we're going to get into the whole Next for Me dynamic, but I'm just curious, can you kind of give us a glimpse at your career journey so far and what led to where you are today?
Sure. I started in newspapers business. We remember newspapers, and I was on the alternative newspaper side of things. So it was more about giving voice to people who didn't necessarily have a voice in the world. And so when the internet came along, it was a logical transition for me to go into that. And I made my name in the 90s doing online communities for E-Trade and children's communities and cancer communities, and so I was steeped in that.
Perfect timing,
way.
huh?
Yeah, it was
exploding.
perfect. Yeah, and so then the years went by, and I started noticing changes happening around me. People talking to me in different ways and treating me a little differently, and I wondered what was happening. Kind of figured it out. And not one to be put to the side, I didn't take to that very easily. And so eventually I saw there was an opening for an opportunity for people to have a voice again in the next chapter of their lives, and to have a brand and a resource for them to come to.
You know, that reckoning day when you realize that ageism might be happening, you know, to me, it almost happened as, you know, it's like there's a flip of a switch and suddenly you're everybody's mom's age. And then you're like,
yeah.
Wait a minute, when did this happen?
I didn't even know it was happening either, you know, and apparently it had been going on all around me and I didn't recognize. I think that's what happens with a lot of people.
But I
they
think,
don't see themselves in that light.
right, because we
necessarily.
define old, right? Isn't it like it's older than me? And then when I reach my 60s, it's like the 80s. And
Yeah.
when my 70s, it'll be like, well, when I'm 90, I'll be old. So
Right, and I always ran with the older people too, so I was the
I
young
did
guy.
too.
Yeah,
I
see?
did too.
And so, I always saw myself as this younger person.
That's
Anyway,
funny.
so that's how I ended up here.
So suddenly this new opportunity emerges, and,
Yeah.
and good for you that you could see this and seize it. Tell us about Next for Me and your whole startup on that.
Sure. So, at a very high level, we're a resource for people over 50 that relates to work and financial readiness. Some of the numbers are kind of dire. There's, 120 million of us over 50, and half of that number have less than 50,000 in the bank, which could easily be wiped out. And yet it happens at a time when the workplace is not as welcoming to people. And so, I really saw the urgency of keeping people working longer. And so it started off, in sort of dire, the sky is falling sort
Right.
of situation. And it's evolved, I would say, into more of an empowering, aspirational sort of way for people to find their way. And so they do that, through us, through stories of people who have come up against a barrier and made their way through it. And, in other ways, it is about people being open to lifelong learning and taking chances and putting yourself out there and that sort of path. And it's been great.
Well, and what I love about the tone and style of Next for Me is that there's this positivity, and so there is the, oh goodness, some trouble going on, financially, or maybe I don't have what I thought I should have. But I think right now there are some tremendous opportunities to be seized. I think longevity's graced us with, people are paying more attention to nutrition and exercise, and so that lifespan clock goes longer.
Yeah.
We shouldn't stop.
No, and the money needs to last longer too. So it means, we have these rituals around, going through childhood and then going through school and college and then getting married and having a family and then having a career, and then boom, it all ends. Well, there are no rituals, or there haven't been, around people for next phase of their lives. And if you think about it, I'm 60 now, I may be 2/3 of the way through. I've got a long way to go still, and more things to do in my life. And so that's what's happening with this longevity span being increased all the time.
So, and I remember one day, we're out there cranking content with Retirepreneur, and one day I get this email that's so intriguing from you, and we had a chat, and I'm like, son of a gun, we're doing some similar things, a little bit of different dynamics too, but talk to us more about how, the market that you're serving and what you're providing.
Sure. So there's the consumer audience, and that is people that I've described who are, going through transitions or working on their finances or creating second careers or new businesses and that sort of thing. And then there is the world of business, which has really not been very smart about dealing with this enormous audience. Half of all consumer spending comes from us. 70% of net worth is us. And yet 5% or less of advertising is addressed to us.
Wow, how's that for lack of alignment here?
Yeah, so there's an opportunity there, and what marketers have done is lumped us all, I call it 50 to death. It's like this big blob of people who have no nuance and nothing unique about different segments along the way. Well, people now who are Gen Z, Gen X rather, are entering this phase, and boomers are phasing out. If you look at this critical moment, 50 to 65, it's such an important time because for a lot of people, the college kids are coming home with debt, the parents are getting ill, they're starting to feel something new in the workplace that is not so great for them, and yet the urgency and the imperative to keep working is more important than ever.
Interesting. That's very interesting how you framed that, and it's true. I think roles may need to change because the whole span is changing, and how, So I think we've had these linear career paths that kind of moved up and up and up, and maybe it's going to be an arc. I don't know. It's interesting to watch.
And suddenly, the income expectations are not there.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because part of it is on us. I have to say that we see that a lot. People who don't want to learn new things or have gotten set in their ways. And so that might be a reason why the workplace is not as welcoming. So, we encourage a lot of learning, a lot of collaboration with other people, and certainly with younger generations.
Outstanding. And to that end, we're going to be teaming up on a workshop, but let's talk a little bit about the workshops that you've been hosting so far, because you've been done quite a few.
Yeah, so we started a year and a half ago having events across the country, and we usually did it with some partners, people who were working around similar ideas as we are, and we get together and we have little talks about what each organization has to say, and then we get people really engaged. And what happens is the floodgates open. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't want to talk about these things, or there's a little shame or embarrassment when they find themselves in an environment with other people having that conversation. It all comes out.
Yep.
And it's wonderful to see, and people have connected afterwards and that sort of thing. So we're beefing that up. We're going into more places. You and I are doing three nights in Ohio, like the Rolling Stones on tour. And then we're going to New York and Phoenix and all across the country. And, people are pretty much the same, and they have the same issues, and they want to have these conversations.
And this pathway doesn't come together in a single conversation or an event. It's kind of a series of steps. So I love that you're hosting these live events, and we're thrilled to be teaming up with you to do the Ohio Road Tour.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to talk a little bit about this market, the longevity economy. Tell us more about that. And in fact, you guys are doing some more research. You kind of mentioned a few stats at the beginning, but
yeah. So we publish this information for consumers, and then on the business side, we publish research, and the research, the most significant report we've done to date is understanding the 50-plus worker. Really interesting stuff. Hopeful, you hear these dark stories and this sort of thing, but this generation is still hopeful, and they have a lot of spunk.
Yeah.
Pardon the beep. And because they came out of an activist background. And so, the other thing is they don't see themselves as old yet.
Yeah, and not me.
No, and they have a lot more to give, and they're starting to think about legacy and all of that. So a marketer needs to know about that. An HR department needs to know about that. If they want to capitalize on this huge market, they need to know what drives us. And so that's what we do with the research
And it's such
side.
a big, giant segment for me. I look at it, and I mean, certainly Retirepreneur, and next for me, we're both serving this market, this age 50 and older. I think my mistake early on was going really broad.
Same.
And I continue to slice and slice and narrow and narrow, and I find that's helping.
Yeah. So there is this big industry called the longevity economy, coined by a author from MIT, and so there's a lot of activity around how do we capitalize on this thing,
right?
And also how do we deal with this large audience.
Yeah.
But we found also that this critical moment, 50 to 65, is when everybody starts having the panic attack and saying, "Oh my gosh, I didn't save enough yet. I must get working and keep that earning happening." And so it's a confluence of several different things happening, not as welcome in the workplace, but really need to work.
Yeah.
So we have to find it within ourselves to get the gumption up and keep learning, and maybe start your own thing. maybe bring your experience from the last 30 years into something new, so that you're not facing that unconscious bias that's happening
Sure.
and all of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I know your time with us today is short, but I got to use your line. So, Jeff
Yes.
Tidwell, what's next for you?
Wow. Well, we're going to do a lot more of what we've already been doing. So we're expanding the workshops and the events across the country, and bringing on partners and getting people like you that magnifies our work, and people that we're aligned with, and we find common ground and common vision. And so we're doing a lot more of that. The publishing has increased. We publish a weekly newsletter, which you can subscribe to, of course. And we just launched this week a trends newsletter as well, which addresses some of the things that marketers might want to know.
Excellent. And the book?
The book.
You've been working on a book here.
Right. Well, last year I chronicled in 50 articles in Forbes.
50. Holy cow.
53, to be honest. The beginnings of the company, what we were going through, the struggles, the joy, and how we adapted as we moved along. So we're putting that into a book with my co-founder, Carol McManus, into a book that is more, I would say, philosophical about what it's like to start a company, and the mindset that you might need to be in to be open to new ways of doing things.
Excellent. We'll have information on how to connect with Next For Me, the website, nextforme.com. It doesn't get easier than that.
Yep.
And I know you got a dash, but can we get you back maybe once the book's out? Sound like a deal?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so
Excellent.
much for having me.
Thanks,
Okay,
Jeff.
Bye.
And with that, we've reached the finish line for another Retirepreneur TV program. We hope you came away with some ideas to pursue, things to explore, and we hope you'll join us next time. Thanks for watching.